Hi, today's good person to know is Sir Martin Sorrell. He's founder and CEO of WPP, which is one of the world's leading communication services and advertising companies, which employs over 180,000 people in 300 offices across 11 countries. It's massive. And whenever Sir Martin speaks, everyone listens, and I did just that when he said to go and check out Mary Meeker's Internet Trends Report. Now, I will put the link in the description box, so do go and check it out. I have to be honest, whenever anyone asks me about the internet and trends, I always tell them to go and check out Mary Meeker's report because it is absolutely fantastic. Now, in this video, Sir Martin talks about his short and medium term worries, where he sees the future. And he says it pays to be paranoid and to plan for every single possible eventuality because you never know what's coming around the corner. So I hope you enjoy this video and thank you for watching.
The data produced by a woman called Mary Meeker, who some of you may remember was a Morgan Stanley analyst, and then she's now Kleiner Perkins. And every year you'll see her slide presentation this year, and she does it every year. And as far as sort of technologies are concerned, I would just simply say watch out for the Chinese. And you know, we in the West are a bit complacent and we should become a bit more paranoid. And I just point to Alibaba, well, Alibaba and Xiaomi. Fundamental change taking place, I think, in what our industry is involved in. It's not just the madmen or madwomen, as we've said before, it's the maths men and the maths women. We ripped up thousands, literally thousands, 2,500 media contracts, and said to clients, look, this is the basis of Xaxis, this is the way that it operates. You can opt in. We could have gone the inertia selling route, as I would call it, by saying you have your media contract, you can opt out. We didn't do that. We actually went through the process of saying, this is what we intend to do. You choose whether you want to be part of it or not. Some of them chose not to. Largely because for transparency reasons, which I'm a little bit puzzled by, because nobody knows when you use double-click or Atlas or Google or Facebook, how those algorithms work. And in fact, if I remember rightly, those algorithms change over time. And people don't even know how the changes are made. They don't know how the page rankings work. So I find it, and by the way, if it's a question about agencies earning too much money, which I sometimes hear, the last time I checked our margins, they were down 15 or 16% on revenues. Last time I checked Facebook and Google's margins, they were in the stratosphere. What we're trying to do is act as we have always done, in the middle. And in an increasingly, the reason we call it investment management, data investment management or media investment management, is it's just like running an investment portfolio. You have to decide where you're going to put your investment. I worry about short-termism, and I mean, I think this is a serious issue that we in our industry have not grappled with sufficiently. We have to demonstrate the power of our case in a world where growth is about 4.5% to 5% worldwide GDP in nominal terms. This year will be about 4.5%, maybe next year about 5%. That is below what we saw pre-2008. In a world where growth is not reaching the levels that clients want it to reach, it is natural, in a low inflation environment where they have very little pricing power, it is natural for them to focus on cost. But it is too much focus on costs. I worry about that in the short to medium term. Clients, I think, are looking at their shoes rather than looking at the horizon, if I can put it that way. Jeremy Bullmore, who's still an advisor to WPP, having been chairman of JWT many, many years ago here in London, always says, you know, if you focus on revenues, at least you can get to 100% market share in theory, it's infinite what you can do. If you focus on cost, there's a finite limit to what you can do on cost. We have to get clients to move their thinking. On the technology side, it's frightening. And I think it's frightening. It pays to be paranoid. I was intrigued by Eric Schmidt's speech where he was asked, what is the biggest threat to Google? And he said Amazon. And then he reflected, well, it's not really even Amazon. He gave the same answer that Nikesh Arora gave, which it was the garage. It's the couple of people in the garage somewhere. It could be Bangalore, it could be Sao Paulo, as well as Beijing or Silicon Valley, who come up. So it pays to be paranoid. That is the thing that worries me, because whilst I may sound reasonably confident about our prospects, and I am, you know, we have withstood the challenge of Google. And there may be a couple of young people in a garage, or even old people in a garage somewhere, who are going to disrupt the business. And the next step is this CMO, CIO or CTO fusion. I'm not bright enough to figure out whether the CMO is going to be more important than the CIO or CTO or vice versa. But what I do think is going to happen is that brand communication has to encompass, and brand planning and advertising and marketing services have to embrace the left brain and the right brain, the maths men and the man, the technical and the marketing. And I think that is really important. And that is, I think, where we're going. And I'm excited about that, because I think that gives us a number of growth opportunities. And the people in our industry have a spectacular advantage. Some of us think we're at a disadvantage. I don't think we are. I think knowing the touchy-feely bit, knowing the psychological bit, knowing the neuroscience bit, knowing the marketing bit is more important in a way than the scientific bit and the analytical bit. But what's really important is fusing it into one. We've developed Xaxis. We've developed our relationship with AppNexus. We see that as being the technology backbone of what we're doing with Xaxis. By the way, how did Xaxis come? We spent $600 million in 2005 on 24/7 Real Media. We tried to compete for DoubleClick. We tried to compete for Atlas, which was owned by Microsoft. We couldn't even get into, I think it was round one. I think both companies went at 4 billion, 5 billion, 6 billion. That was more than we were worth at the time. We were only worth $26 billion now. And we just couldn't compete. So we bought the poor man's DoubleClick and the poor man's Atlas. But we took that and it morphed into B3 was the first iteration of the platform, then the MIG, and then we brought it into Group M and we got Xaxis going. And then we made the OAS adjustment with AppNexus, and the rest I hope is successful history. So I don't think it's a threat. I think it's something that we had to adjust our model. I think the Mika data and other data that we've seen seems to indicate a very significant shift over time in terms of consumption habits. So we have an arrangement with Twitter. We get the Twitter data. It clearly shows that when people are watching live programming and the impact of live programming and the engagement of consumers is greater because of the second and third screens. In fact, we've got data to show. We've got two people sitting on a couch watching a live television program. They're more likely to tweet to one another than they are to talk to one another. I come back to being paranoid. You've got to plan for these possible eventualities.
I know St Martin's video was very high level, but it's always interesting to hear from such highly regarded individuals and see how they're thinking and how they're planning for the future. So I hope you enjoy this video. Please subscribe to see more, and thank you for watching.